I'm going to tell you about the little girl and the pebbles. I must have been about 12 with my older brother being 14. My younger brother was about 10 when we were shoveling coal into gunny sacks. We'd been taught to help others when we were young and strong by our father and mother. This is our way to bring coal to the old people in the cannery. It was too hard for them to do that. We had to climb into this large coal bin about 8 feet high and swing the heavy sacks into a wheelbarrow and wheel them to the houses. A train car would dump a load of coal into the bin for the people's use. This particular day we heard the train horn blaring on the other side of the corner at the far end of the cannery houses. Normally we wouldn't even notice, but other than to make sure that the wheelbarrow wasn't on the tracks. The corner of the tracks was about 3/4 of a mile away, just on the other end of the cannery houses. We glanced in the train's direction and suddenly saw something between the tracks. It was moving, and now the train was coming around the corner. The horn was even louder, and we could hear the brakes screaming as the wheels slid on the track. The train engine had about 150 cars behind it, so the engine didn't have a hope of stopping fast. The three of us dropped our shovels and ran right off the 8-foot wall and hit the ground running. My younger brother actually kept up to us as we raced as the train was coming our way. As we closed the distance, we could see a little girl with a very pretty white dress with blue designs on it. It was like a dress worn by a square dancer, and the little girl was playing with granite pebbles between the tracks. She had about 3 or 4 on her dress, and she was throwing them up into the air and laughing as they fell again. She was sitting in the gravel with her heels up on a black creosote tie facing our way. We were hollering for her to get off the tracks. Of course, she couldn't hear us over the screaming of the train wheels braking and the loud horn blaring at her. Her mother realized that her daughter had gone out the door of the cannery house, looked out and dropped everything and began running out up the sidewalk and towards the tracks. She knew that she was too late, so she threw herself in front of the train as if to stop it with her body. The train engine hit her and threw her into the air and off into the rocks to our right. I could hear my older brother hollering, "Give me your hand, give me your hand." The little girl looked at him and smiled, that little angelic smile, raised her hand towards him. We each had our hands out, with Marv's hand about 8 or 10 inches ahead of us. By now we were all screaming. The train cowcatcher, the bumper, got to her first. It hit her in the back and bent her forward. We saw the top of her head split open on the black creosote tie as it went under the train. My older brother pushed the front of the train as he leaped to the right and into the gravel beside the tracks. I realized that my younger brother wasn't going to give up, and he was diving under the cowcatcher. I reached and grabbed his wrist with my right hand, pulled, and then jumped with all my might to the left. I closed my eyes since I fully expected to have both my ankles broken, as I knew I was going to land in the gravel face first. The train only hit my younger brother's legs and threw him my way. I didn't let go, and we both made it off the tracks in time. When I opened my eyes, the side of my face was bleeding, but I could see the little girl's body being thrown from wheel to wheel and the parts being squashed off as the train slid another 100 feet or so. After the train stopped, the large part of her body that I found was her foot still in her little black shoe. We were all screaming and crying. Even now, tears well up my eyes as I recount the events. The train engineer climbed off the engine and sat on the rails. Oh, my older brother pointed out the location where the mother had flown into the rocks to some of the men that ran to help. They found her feet sticking out and pulled her back up out of the hole that she flew into. Her head was bleeding and she was babbling incoherently between screams and crying. I understand she went to an insane asylum and never did recover. Honestly, none of us really recovered. Vince was having a living nightmare when he least expected it right up until he was killed in a car accident. He knew that it was coming in advance, but it was like he was looking forward to it as a blessing. Relief. My older brother became an alcoholic, even though he probably doesn't know why. For me, I became a workaholic. After working as a mechanic, I built houses, helped others, framing or installing paneling on the insides or plumbing and wiring their houses. The money I made went to whoever needed it. My life has been controlled by the complete failure to beat the train. I can only see this in hindsight. God bless the little girl's soul.